let's get into this USMNT game, Noah, because there's quite a lot to talk about with this. You know, it was certainly an unfortunate result for our country, but it was good for the content. So let's just dive on in. The U.S. was in a situation going into this game where they had to beat Uruguay to move through to the group stage into the knockout rounds because of the 2-1 debacle versus Panama that we covered extensively. But it was not a situation that you want to be in a tournament like this. Uruguay, very, very good team. And our backs were against the wall. And as for the game itself, Noah, I thought it was a pretty good game, honestly, at least from an entertainment perspective. It was a competitive back and forth game, up and down, end to end. But in the spirit of the Seattle Sounders, we couldn't finish any of the chances that we generated. And really, I was getting a lot of Seattle Sounders vibes during this tournament. I mean, you had a really bad, ill-advised red card. You had sequences of good play that didn't result in many goals. So really, the parallels were uncanny. But in the end, Uruguay, they get a goal in the second half that made it 1-0, and we never equalized, and we are out of the Copa America.
See you,
tournament
buddy.
Over. And this was really the worst outcome that we could have possibly had, because I think the reason this tournament was considered so important was, you know, we're not doing World Cup qualifying this time around. There are only so many games that we're going to get to measure ourselves against upper tier competition like this. And we blew it. We blew it in really terrible and quite embarrassing fashion when you really break it down.
You know, I have an idea, Ari.
Yeah.
For if they need some more games, maybe we can toss them in Leagues Cup, see how they do.
Yeah, you know, it's not the worst idea. We got to do something to make these games up now that we're out of the tournament. I did want to talk about the ref real quick, not to blame anything on it, but just because it was really, it was one of the wilder refereeing performances that I've ever seen. The two craziest moments, I think, that stand out to me were the yellow card on Tyler Adams, where he got a yellow card, I believe, tell me if I'm misrepresenting this, but he got a yellow card for getting his own ankle stomped on by another player, which I don't know if I've ever seen that quite to that degree.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But my favorite one was when he played advantage while giving the yellow card.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
No. You know, there was a lot of unique...
That's a good word for it.
Unique opportunities that this ref took to explore the possibilities that a ref has to, you know, exert his will on the laws of the game.
Yeah, he just generally also had zero control of the game. It was wild out there. And you know, you can really tell when a ref has lost control, and he definitely lost control. There was a lot of debate over whether the Uruguay goal was offside, which I thought he was, probably by a little bit. But I don't really think that matters, because you didn't score a goal in this game. So even if that gets waved off, it's not like you did enough to win regardless.
Yeah, you don't advance even if that goal gets waved off.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I understand the debate about that, but I really don't think it's that significant at the end of the day. And the reality is, Noah, that this tournament was chalked on the Panama game. As soon as Tim Weah got that red card and put the team in a situation where it was going to be really hard to get a result, and they ultimately lost the game, it was chalked right there. The odds that you were going to beat Uruguay in this game were never very good. And if you just beat Panama, it's not an issue. If you just beat Panama, the storyline right now is that the U.S. took care of business and had a pretty hard-fought, close loss against Uruguay. But I think we all would have been excited and intrigued to see what they could do for the rest of the tournament. But that red card was killer, man. It was killer. And this has predictably led to a lot of discussion and debate about the future of one Gregg Berhalter. A lot of people think that he should be fired for this. So I figured we could just debate that right now. Yeah. Do we think that Gregg Berhalter should be fired? Now, I'll say that I think anyone who's listened to our USMNT punditry in the past knows that I'm not as fervently anti-Berhalter as a lot of people. I was meh on the hire when it was first made, but I was ultimately fine with it. I feel like and still feel like he's a pretty average, middle of the road coach. And, you know, I also, I don't think that who the coach is, especially when it comes to international soccer, makes as much of a difference as a lot of people like to think. You know, if you made Gregg Berhalter the coach of Argentina or France, he could probably win the World Cup. Doesn't really mean much about his coaching acumen or ability. But you know what? I think he does have to be fired for this, Noah. I think he does. When you take into account the expectations for this team and what people were hoping and thinking that they could do at this tournament, and you contrast that with how it actually played out, and just the fact that it's felt like this team is underperforming its talent level for a long time now, realistically. And that was something that I was willing to give a chance to develop and improve. But when you look at this tournament, I don't think you can really come to much other conclusion than this thing has stagnated. And on top of that, when you have a situation like that Tim Weah red card, that is a lack of discipline, a critical lack of discipline, where I said it on the last show, but the coach that bears some of the responsibility for that. I do think that the players bear a lot of the responsibility as well, and that needs to be acknowledged. But like when you have a player make a mistake like that, that's on you. That's on you as a coach to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that he has to take some of the blame for the Tim Weah red card. On the same hand, I think Tim Weah has to take the majority of that responsibility.
I agree with that.
That is way more on him than it is on Gregg. I don't think they lost this specific tournament or bombed out of this specific tournament because of anything Gregg did. I still think he should be fired. I still don't think that his system has worked, even though after the Jurgen Klinsmann era in 2017, all anyone was asking for was a clear system, an American guy, and a guy who could communicate well with the players, which is exactly who Gregg Berhalter is. He's a guy who the players like. They're the ones who basically got his job back. They were the ones who insisted that he come back, basically. And he plays a clear system. He plays the same formation. He plays the same thought for every single game. And he's an American. So, I mean, he should be fired, but I don't think that enough blame is being put on how absolutely poorly the players performed in this tournament. I mean, it was abysmal. It was abysmal. There were 2 players who played well in this tournament.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely not good. I mean, Weston McKennie said after the game that the quote was something to the effect of all the players on this team would run through a brick wall for Gregg Berhalter, which that's fine, but like running through brick walls does not equate to winning soccer games. You know, if you can run through a brick wall if you think that that's the correct course of action for you. But like, I'm kind of just like sort of tired of hearing that, I guess. You know?
Well, I think part of it too with this whole conversation is there's such a low soccer IQ for the average USMNT fan, right? Like, I'm not even trying to be rude. I'm just trying to say, like, there is a lot of casual soccer observers that obsess over the U.S. men's national team, which is totally fair because we have players in some of the best leagues in the world, and this is something that they can connect directly with them on. For people who are like, oh, I don't care about MLS, that's fine. But what tends to happen is they get focused, they get set on this one thing. So the conversation is always, fire Gregg Berhalter, fire Gregg Berhalter, fire Jurgen Klinsmann, fire Jurgen Klinsmann, fire Bob Bradley, fire Bob Bradley. Bob Bradley's playing his son. He's a bot. Jurgen Klinsmann hates America, so fire him. Gregg Berhalter is the worst thing to ever happen to soccer. Fire him. And it's like, I don't know. I just like this. I feel like this is not a constructive conversation to keep happening, but I do agree with you. Like, he cannot continue to be the coach of this team.
I'll be interested to see if they actually pull the plug. Like
They said they wouldn't.
I feel like they have to, but they kind of put a lot on the line by rehiring him and talking up the process behind hiring him. And they're quite invested in this hire working out. And bombing out of the Copa in the group stage, man,